Hi everyone, it's Maisie at the Confidence Stitch. Happy Friday. You know the drill. I'm going to take you through some of the new quilting cottons we've got in the store today, and hopefully I'll provide you with a much needed dose of weekly inspiration. So let's dive right in. I'm going to switch over to the top here. The collection we're starting with is called Oracle. It's was designed by Eye Candy Quilts, which is a mother-daughter design duo from Nebraska for Andover fabrics. This collection mixes imagery from the tarot with quilting, and it's very fun. So I'm going to start by showing you this panel. It's a kind of a big panel, so I'll take you through it a little bit at a time. But as you can see, they've kind of got these cards, and we've got like 2 of bobbins, 3 of needles. We've got the star here, but it has kind of this like Greek imagery and a star quilt, which is just really fun. Look at this one. I love this. The 3 of irons. It has like these muses, and they're like steaming their irons towards the sky, which is just so funny. So I just really like that concept of kind of mixing and matching both of those themes together. It's really unique, really interesting. Like right here, they've got a roll of fabric and a rotary cutter. I don't know if you're a quilter or a sewer at all. I just think that this is a collection you can really appreciate. Look at this, the metamorphosis. We've got a hand with a butterfly and a seam ripper. And then they also have kind of along the edge here, just this sort of fun imagery that you could incorporate into different parts of your quilt. This is 24 inches wide and then a 44-inch wide panel total. So I'm going to come back to this in a second because I want to tell you some ideas I have. But the first colorful quilting cotton we've got here is called Wards in Boho. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to bring it a little close to you, but it's got like an eye in there and some moons and stars. It's just really pretty and fun. And then we have it in brown as well, equally pretty. And then the last print we have of this fabric is called Blue Metallic, which is interesting because there's no metallics in it, but it kind of has a nice shiny brightness to it. So really pretty and fun. And then we move on to Picasso in Boho. I really like this whole kind of line drawing use of different colors to create different pictures on either sides of lines. It's sort of been popular the last few years, and I am a big fan. I love this. You can see like lips and stars. So we've got that in boho and then in oak. Fun. So what I'm thinking for this collection is it could be really fun. Well, here, actually first, I'm going to show you some basics that are not from the Oracle collection, but they're also from Andover, and they're called Dottir, designed by the same mother-daughter duo. So this first one, as you can see, is just a basic. This does have some metallic in it, kind of a really light, I don't know, more of a mustard metallic, actually. And so this is called Dottir in oak. And then I've got it in nectarine. Again, you can kind of see these little shiny moons throughout here, just like a little glimmer. It's really nice. And then we have it in cider and orchid. It's really pretty, kind of purpley pink color. And then last is sailor. So I think it'd be fun to make this Dottir. I think that's how you pronounce it. I tried to look it up. I thought it was French, but we're going to go with Dottir. Which is this running stitch pattern. And there's just like, they use an ombre effect. And I think you could do that with all these basics and, you know, throw in the fun pattern fabrics as well. Andover themselves, they suggest, they have 2 different free quilt patterns. They're good about that. They have a lot of free quilt patterns. There's the Arcana quilt pattern, which is kind of, it's features the panel, it's a busier design, and then Buster, which is just kind of strips of these basics. But I think that you should combine them together and make something like this, or I think it would be really fun to use Vita Anderson. You probably know her from So Fly Quilts. She made this Big Sky Divas pattern, and she used the lipstick cowgirl panel, but I think you could do a similar thing with this panel and kind of fill in all these gaps with the different fabrics. And then maybe if you took 2 of these at a time, you could use those as the different panel parts of the quilt. So I think it'd just be a really fun way to use this new design of hers in a really kind of different, unique way. So that's kind of what I'm envisioning. But moving right along, oops, sorry, my microphone getting caught up. There we go. Let's now go to the Light Up My World collection. This is actually a glow in the dark collection designed by Alicia Dugetz for Michael Miller. She says it was inspired by whimsical things that bring light to our lives. And she said when she was little, she thought the most magical creatures of all were lightning bugs. And she wants to imbue that kind of wonderment and magic into this collection. And I think she did a good job. We're not downstairs in our usual studio because we're going some renovations, which is exciting, but it means that I don't have a good way to show you this glow in the dark component of this fabric. But be on the lookout because we're going to try to either have pictures taken or do a little video so you can kind of see how it looks. But this first fabric is called Whispering Winds in black. Really just fun, swoopy kind of pattern. And then we have Moonlit Forest in blue with all these cute little animals. Look at them, little owls and kind of foxes and skunks and deer even. Bats. It's just really fun. You can make such a great kids quilt out of this. And then the last is Sparks in the Night in navy. And this one really, when it glows in the dark, it's just like, pow, it looks great. And you can see all the magicalness she tried to bring in with her lightning bugs. So Michael Miller has two patterns they suggest. There's the Cascade pattern, and then there's the Barcelona pattern, both which are really nice. But I looked and thought that out of our collection, this Cluck Cluck Sew pattern by Simplify would be kind of good. It's sort of similar to the Cascade. And then also this Effervescence quilt by Studio 180, I thought had kind of a similar shape to the Barcelona. So, and there's some fun blank space in there. So if you put white on the outside and you're glow in the dark on the inside, it'd be really great. What a fun kids quilt that would that make, don't you think? Okay, so next up, oh, do you hear that? Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? Yeah, that's right. I'm going to talk about some Christmas fabric right now. I know that it's only June and we've got months and months before we need to start holiday making, but it's kind of good to know what's out there so that if you are feeling inspired, you can hop on it. And then when, September rolls around, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm making for Christmas. So this first collection I'm going to show you is called Bird Humbug, which isn't that funny. It incorporates kind of traditionally Christmas colors with a few not so Christmassy prints that I think it's kind of a really unique and whimsical effect. So the first two are just basics. There's foliage and cranberry, kind of basic. And then we've got foliage in forest, also nice. But then we've got Humbug in forest, which as you can see has little beetles on it with little metallic stars. We know that people are there's like a love-hate relationship. Either you like beetles on your fabric or you really hate it, but the people who like it. And so we thought that these were kind of fun. So this is the forest colorway, and then this is the daylight. And so then I thought what could be fun is to make this cold front pattern. You could just, maybe do one or two of the mittens with these colors and then incorporate different ones and different mittens. It's a way to have it be holiday and slightly Christmassy without overwhelmingly Christmassy, if you know what I mean. So I think that would be super fun. The next Christmassy collection I have is called Noel. This was designed by Aditya Sitar of Laundry Basket Quilts for Andover. Again, we tried to go with sort of a subtle holiday fabric that is definitely for that time of year, but not so overwhelming. So this first fabric is misleadingly called Cozy Flannel QC in Ribbon Candy. I don't know why Andover decided to call it Cozy Flannel. It's a nice idea, but if you're selling fabric, it's confusing. So just know that this is not brushed. It's just quilting cotton, but it is kind of this sweet holiday print here. So this is in Ribbon Candy. And then next, same pattern in a joyful print. And then we have Sweet Pine in spruce. These are fun, just pine cones, which are really, if you're surrounded like conifers like we are, it really screams holiday time. So that's nice, kind of an evergreen. And then we have the same thing in Mary is this colorway with the pine cones red. And then this, which is called Andover Fern in Wreath, which I like it. It's kind of makes me think of like poinsettias, you know what I mean? It's funny that they're a holiday plant, but they are, and we just really like the colors. So this sort of pink and green. And then last in this collection, I have a panel for you. It's 24 inches wide, and if you get, you know, a whole third of a yard, 24 inches, you'll get 2 panels. So you've got, this is called Homestead in Red Work, and it's like cross stitch, faux cross stitch, which is fun because I think that's a really another, it's sort of an old-timey Christmas effect, right? When grandmothers used to embroider pillowcases or pillow tops, stuff like that. So you get that aesthetic without having to do all the cross-stitching yourself, which is a bonus. So yeah, it makes me think of White Christmas kind of, or like a cabin in Vermont. And the great thing is this collection, even though it's different, it goes really well with the bird humbug. I'm gonna hold this up closer to you, but in the beetles, you can see there's like hints of pink in there, and then it really just pulls out the pink that's in here. You wouldn't know that these aren't from the same collection. So again, you can go more traditional with it, or you can pull out some fun patterns. I think that pattern-wise, you could combine both these collections to possibly make this spinning pinwheels quilt. Andover, oh, no, I'm wrong. I thought they had suggested something, but that was just me making it up. So I think the spinning pinwheels, again, kind of vintage Christmas, which should be fun, or Posh Snowball by So Kind of Wonderful. Just a fun, busy pattern that you could pack a lot into. So those are both my suggestions. Now we're leaving Christmas land. So for those of you that were bummed, we're back to summer. And I'm going to show you a new basics collection we got from RJR. This is called Brushstrokes. It's really just a fun blender. We got it in a bunch of different colors, and it's super different from all the other blenders we currently carry. So this first one is called Brushstrokes in Mint. And then I have it in Navy. Really fun, squiggly. It's kind of makes me think of, I don't know, like the Electric Company show from when I was a kid. There's sort of this like wild, oh, kid stuff, but it looks really great in the background of a quilt. And then we've got Marigold, really fun yellow. Light Lavender, really lovely. And Indigo Purple, those two go great together. And last but not least, Currant. It's a nice rich red. RJR has a few patterns they suggest for these. Just for these blenders, you could make a chic picnic quilt, which is a So Kind of Wonderful pattern. And then there's also the Color Hexie quilt by Jenny Baker. And I love both those suggestions. I think that actually any So Kind of Wonderful quilt out of just these basics, or maybe like an Elizabeth Hartman, would be super fun. So that's what I'm thinking. So next, we're going to go to a collection I'm super in love with. This is called Loli's Garden. It was designed for Cotton and Steel by an Argentinian designer named Ana Sanfilipino. Ana is a really whimsical children's book illustrator by trade, and her designs, I think, transfer very well to fabric. I'm so in love with this collection. I'm already a huge cat lover, and you're going to see that there's some cats in here, so that definitely got me on board. But really what's convinced me that I might like to make something out of it is her use of color. So this first is called Magnolia in Spring Bloom, and it just has magnolias on it. But I don't know, the oranges, and there's like a little bit of purple in there, and this fun turquoise color, they just look so great together. And then different colorways, same pattern. This is Magnolia in Right as Rain. Whole different aesthetic, but equally pleasing. And I also think that even though the same colors aren't in there, these still look nice together. A lot of times in collections, they give you like 3 or 4 distinct colorways, and mixing and matching them gets a little tricky. But with this collection, I think that you can mix the colorways. It works really well. Okay, so here, ooh, my cats are upside down. One second here. This is Geranio in Green with Envy. Look at them. They're so cute. Just in the garden. And then there's Cat's Meow. So really quick, before we move on from this collection, I want to show you how well the brushstroke basics that I just showed you go with some of these fabrics. So look at this. We've got the Currant which doesn't it just go great with these cats? I don't know why, but it's probably because this is RJR, this is cotton and steel, but cotton and steel is a subset of RJR, so they have kind of a similar palette. But it really pulls it out in a unique way, and you wouldn't expect it, but they look great together. So I think that is great. What else? Oh yeah, this mustard version, also fun. Really pulls out the yellow that we've got hidden in and around these fabrics right here too. So I think that's super great. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, the mint too. Again, you kind of don't expect it, but then once you lay it on there, you're like, oh yeah, that works great. So just fun to know that not only are these basics great to look at, they do actually combine with collections in fun ways. And I have some other ones to show you later that they look good with. So moving on, we're now gonna go to, oh, really quick. The pattern I was thinking would look good is this little jaybird quilt. It's called Sprinkles. Modernly, Morgan has a quilt called Starshine, which is what Cotton and Steel suggested. And it's a similar kind of star motif. So I think either or would look great with this collection. Okay. Now we're moving on to Alexander Henry. This is the Wish You Were Here collection. This is super fun and splashy. And of course, there's a kitty in it, so I love it. It kind of reminds me of some of Marcia Dursey's past collections. I don't know if you see that too, but sky's really the limit with this collection. So this is the Henry's cat in multi, and then kind of just the big bright pattern we have from this collection is called Joy of Life in red. Really just fun. There's kind of no two ways about it. It's just a fun collection. We have a Confident Maker, a local one called At Peace Missoula, and they made these super awesome stools with this as the top of their stools, and it looks so great. So sky's the limit. You can make anything you want, but if it were up to me, I think what I would do is make something like this veiled suggestion quilt. This is the Angela Pingle quilt, and I think what you could do is pull basics and blenders, different colors from these fabrics, and kind of have a lot of it being solid. But then like with this Joy of Life fabric, maybe you fill in some of your bigger shapes, and you could also just take out one panel altogether and put your kitty in there instead. You know what I mean? So you could fussy cut, try all kinds of things, but I think it'd be a really great way to sort of ground these busy prints with some solids that just pull directly from the fabric itself. So the more I talk about it, the more I think, ooh, I'd love to do that. So anyway, now we're going to move to Jason Yenter. This is from his Halcyon collection. They're just border prints, really. So this is just a fat quarter, but if you can imagine the 44 inches, it has this border 4 times over. And what's great is you just get as much yardage as you need lengthwise, and then you can use this to border anything you like. You could put it around a panel, or you could even put it in the middle, make a table runner or something like that. So we have this colorway, which is border print and vegetation border print in black, and then vegetation border print in green. So I was walking around the store trying to figure out what would I do with this, and something that kind of caught my eye. Francine Miller made a quilt for us, the Violet Craft Forest Abstractions quilt. And as I was looking at it, I thought, oh wow, the colors she picked in particular look really good with this this border print. So you see, I'm just going to put it up here a little bit. You can kind of, there's the squirrel and there's the bunny, but they kind of work really well. And I thought that it'd be super fun to border, especially a really busy pieced quilt like this, and kind of have a border around it that sort of grounds it and draws your eye in. So anyway, long story short, you can obviously do anything you liked with these prints, but it's really fun to know that they're out there. Okay, so last but certainly not least, I'm going to show you some of the newest fabrics we've gotten from M&S Textiles. So M&S Textiles works with Aboriginal artists in Australia to put their artwork on fabrics. This tradition of painting and design goes back 50,000 years, and it's the only living form of ancient artwork that we still have today. The techniques these artists used have been passed down from generation to generation, and every shape in these fabrics means something specific. So I'm not only going to show you some of the new fabrics we've received, but I'm going to try and tell you a little bit about what the designs themselves mean. So first up, this is Caming Ground in magenta. It was designed by Charlie Egan, and this design depicts people from various places gathered in the ground to attend a corroboree. And a corroboree is a nocturnal festival with songs and symbolic dances by which the Australian Aborigines celebrate events of importance, which makes sense because corroboree sounds like the word corroborate, right? So we get together. And so I'm gonna break this down a little bit. These large shapes here represent large tents where groups of people would meet with like elders to discuss how society is going, how things are working. And what I really liked when I was reading the description was that it says they discuss all sorts of community problems without any fear. And I just thought, oh, what a great concept, like to be able to quilt that idea into a quilt of, yeah, this is a place where we get together and discuss and we're not afraid. We can say how we feel. I just thought that was a really beautiful sentiment. So the smaller and medium tents, these are places where people might rest or sleep. And then there's these U-shaped motifs kind of throughout, and kind of the boundary areas where there's little dots, these tiny little dots all around. They represent people like resting or walking. And then we have these dotted lines, which mean paths, so paths between the tents. And then there's bigger dots that indicate bush food and water holes. So here, I'm gonna pick this up one more time. So now that I've told you all that, you can kind of take it in. So it's like a lot of them are aerial visions. Most of their designs are as drawn as the over and above, which is really interesting. It's kind of, if you think about how old this art is and think about people visualizing themselves from above before they had power of flight and things like that, it's a really, it speaks to how these people tend to think outside themselves, and that design it's present in their artwork. So anyway, that's Caming Ground. Next is Bushberry in Ecru. This was designed by Marlene Doolin, and it depicts beautiful wild bushberries after the rain in Alice Spring, where she lives. So the circles equal the main bush that grow in almost every area from heavy winter rainfall. When we get these new shipments, we get these little behind the story descriptions, and we put them in a little book. That way, when you're in our store, you can kind of take a look, and we try to incorporate things about the designs themselves into the descriptions. So I know more things about some fabrics and less about others, depending on whether I've gotten these, but that's what I can tell you about this really lovely fabric. It's kind of nice to imagine all those bushberries blooming, isn't it? So next is Aboriginal Kangaroo Path in blue. This is designed by Roseanne Morton, and it's pretty straightforward. All the white dots, the big ones, are drinking water for kangaroos, and while the dotted lines symbolize paths. So it's just kind of this network of where the kangaroo live and thrive. Really nice. Next is Regeneration in Pink. This was painted by Heather Kennedy, and in this work she's depicting how after a fire plants regenerate with the seed pods, and the seed pods create new growth, which then leads to regeneration. I don't know the specifics of what each symbol means, but when you look at this fabric kind of in a wide view like this, you sort of get it. You know, you can see seed pods and kind of this like motion. It feels like things are growing and moving and regeneration's happening. So I'll take you in a little bit closer. Just really detailed and beautiful. Next is Sunset Night Dreaming in blue. This was painted by Heather Kennedy. This is one that looks really good with some of the brushstroke fabrics. Actually, all these Aboriginal fabrics kind of go well with this collection, better than you'd expect, really. but it's sort of fun to see these fabrics together. Let me see. There was this caming ground. Pull that back up really quick. Look how nice this looks with the current. Isn't that kind of fun? So sort of a unique thing. Oh, sort of a fun mix there. So just another good thing to know is like when you're building this, you can throw in some interesting basics because these patterns are so busy that it really welcomes that sort of melee in your quilt. So I know less about this one as well, but sunset night dreaming, I really think you, again, get that sentiment. We've got this sunset on an edge and kind of the sky. There's like these little, they look like sea stars almost, but could probably be just as easily stars in the night sky, things like that. Really quick, I'm gonna take a diversion to let you know about this book that we got in. It's called Australian Spirit, Designer Projects to Quilt, Fuse, and Sew. And it is from M&S Textiles. And throughout it, they have all these really beautiful different patterns, which is great. And it's not only quilts, but there's also like vests and bags. They really, sky's the limit with this book. And they talk about the artists themselves and the fabrics and what they mean. And they have this really cool traditional Aboriginal symbols and motifs kind of key here. So as you're looking, you can figure out what things for women sitting, bowl, tracks, kind of rainbows, mountains. And so when you have that in context, then you can look at the fabrics and start to understand what is happening from this key here. So anyway, I highly recommend this book, not only for the quilts, but for the history that comes with it. So we'll keep chugging along here. The next three fabrics are all the same design, but in three different colorways. This is called Desert Flora in purple, in green, and in blue. It's really lovely. This is another one that looks good with the brush strokes. Look at this. Isn't that kind of fun? And same, the yellow looks equally good. So there's so much you can do with this fabric is the long and short of it. These three were designed by Roseanne Ellis. And I encourage you, you can totally look up all these artists online. They are painters foremost, and it's just that M&S Textiles has worked with them to get their prints on fabric. So we're so lucky to be able to incorporate our love of quilting with this really rich history and tradition. You can make essentially anything you'd like. Look at this. Vita Anderson made this. It's a Judy Niemeyer pattern. It's called Cactus Flower, and she made a little table runner completely out of these Aboriginal textiles, and it looks so great. You know, Judy is kind of known for using batiks in her patterns, and Vita's been experimenting with some other prints, and it's so great to see how they just pop in this kind of design. So yeah, sky's the limit. You can make anything you want. And the other great thing about these fabrics is you can mix and match them a million ways and they all look good. We're so lucky to get to experience this art via fabric. And I think it's important to take time and recognize what the stories mean. That way when we do make a quilt, we can pass that knowledge on and really appreciate the culture that we're getting to experience through these fabrics. So anyway, that's what I've got today. I hope you found it inspiring, not overwhelming. I want to remind you that we're in the middle of a sale right now. So it's buy 3 patterns, get 1 free. And that applies to quilts, garment, and bag patterns. So, you know I showed you some Christmas fabric, but if you thought, oh, that's a good idea, and I know what pattern I want to make out of it, now's a great time to just invest in it, put it away, and then when the time comes, you can pull it out and make it. So sometimes just being prepared is like the first step to making something new. So I hope you guys have a great day and that this was enjoyable. We love to hear your feedback. So if there's anything new you want to see or questions you have, please feel free to leave us a comment. And I'm sure I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.